What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to dive into some of the quotes that came out of the mouth of Joe Judge today regarding the New York Giants, regarding Daniel Jones and his ability to take that next step forward as a leader. Said a lot of really good things about him since he's gotten to know him during this entire offseason. And Joe Judge has had to deal with a lot. He's getting to know his players. The offseason meetings are starting to conclude before they get ready for training camp. But he talked a lot about Daniel Jones and his leadership ability. In addition to that, and you knew this was coming, Joe Judge was asked about the protest and about the kneeling during the National Anthem and his stance on it as the New York Giants head coach. And I'm going to jump into some of the quotes that he had to say about that. And then I'll give my opinion on all of it. And I completely understand this is a sensitive topic. I'll get into my thought process on it. I'll try to be as respectful as possible to people on both sides of it. But I'm going to jump into some of the quotes regarding Joe Judge of what he had to say about Daniel Jones. And then we'll get into some of the quotes that Judge had to say regarding the flag. But I think Joe Judge continues to show you that he is a good leader for this football team. But let's jump right into the quotes. When first asked about how he will handle the players, he said, "We're going to be very receptive of our team. And we're going to support our players," Judge told NJ Advanced Media. "We'll involve the players, be in there as coaches. The owners have been involved and have been phenomenal in listening." Then he went on to say, "For me to be the voice of the team, I have to really understand what collectively puts together our team," Judge said. "I stress to my children at home the same thing. Having these conversations and listening, not listening defensively, not listening to respond, but to listen to comprehend." And that is a great point. And that's what I've talked about in my videos regarding some of these topics. Is I don't think people in this country do that enough. I don't think people are listening. And I think on both sides. And I think Judge hit it on the head with that. Then he goes on to say, "Honestly, as a 38-year-old white guy, I don't have the answer on this," Judge told the New York Post. "It's important for me to just listen and to listen to our players." And I completely agree with that. I talk enough. You find out a lot about people's experiences that aren't exactly the same as yours. You find out a lot about people's emotions of things that they carry around, and you want to make sure you support all the players. Make sure they understand you're not just here for X's and O's, that you're here for them as a person, that you're here for them as a player, that you're here for them to help them as a better professional, a better family man. And Judge talked about that the second he took the job with the New York Giants. He basically said everyone's going to start from a clean slate, but we're going to care about these players just as much off the field as on the field. But he also made clear to say when it comes to being in the facility and in training camp, he wants it to be football. But he's going to care about them as human beings, and that's basically what he's going on to say here. Then he went on to say, "We want to make a lasting difference. We want to be very involved in our community, and we're going to work to support the players and give them the vehicle to do so. We're going to be very involved as well as the coaches. The owners have been phenomenal. We've had very open dialogue as a team," Judge said. "It's been very passionate, very enlightening. We have an opportunity to show 90 guys on different backgrounds working together towards a common goal of doing the right thing for each other, doing the right thing for communities, and we could use our platform to do something positive." First, Judge just talked about why he hasn't been so outspoken about Jones up until, recently, when he went on to say, "The reason I couldn't evaluate this guy in the public is I didn't know him early on," Judge told the Post this week. And obviously he's referring to, early on during the process when he basically wouldn't come out and name Daniel Jones the starting quarterback along with everybody else on this roster. And he's basically saying, "I've now had time to evaluate him through the offseason process." He later goes on to say, "Now, after spending a length of time with him, there's a lot you find out about the guy," Judge said. "There's a lot more to his personality that maybe you see through an interview. There's a lot of substance to the guy. There's a lot of leadership to the guy. And there's a lot of competitiveness to the guy." And, I love hearing that. And, I think a lot of Giants fans have seen that this entire offseason, the way Daniel Jones has handled the things that are going on in the world, what he was able to do when he came out and spoke about it, his leadership in terms of setting the example, his work ethic, setting up programs to try to work with these guys. He went down to Texas to work with some of his wide receivers, and Judge later touched on that. And those are things that are tough to find, and you have to have within a quarterback. I love the fact that he's one of the guys, whether it's sitting in my office or calling me on the phone, he'll tell you the thing that's tough to say. He'll give you the feedback you need. He'll have a good, open conversation with you. And then he finally went on to say, Daniel's really done a lot of things this spring to get guys together, whether it was through Zoom or FaceTime or things that they organized on their own at different times, Judge said. He got guys together down there in Texas. He's doing a lot of good things to get this team going. He understood the limits of the situation he was in as far as being on the grass with players, and he took some steps to kind of bridge that. He was far from the only one who wanted to get together, from what I understand, but he did a good job of getting them together. You just hope it's productive when they go down there and everyone is safe in their travels. And just great stuff coming out there from Joe Judge talking about Daniel Jones and the leadership that he will bring to the New York Giants. And it should be no surprise to Giants fans. It's what we've heard all offseason. And this offseason, I've become even more encouraged about the progression of Daniel Jones, how he's handled this entire offseason regarding his work ethic, regarding his leadership ability. And I think Jones is going to take a big step forward this year with the New York Giants. And it's just encouraging to hear the head coach, Joe Judge, reiterate that. Of course, Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, we hope, are married together for the next 15 years. You know, we hope both of them are the long-term answer for this football team. And from what you're hearing, both out of Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, both of them seem to be great leaders. And I think Jones is really taking that next step forward in his career for the New York Giants. Regarding the flag, listen, I know it's a very sensitive subject, and I don't like to offend anybody on my channel. And I see both sides of it. I understand why people are sensitive. Growing up in military families, people think that it's disrespectful towards the troops. But then you could take the opposite approach and say the troops fight for the freedom for people to express their opinion, freedom of speech. And, you know, one thing that Joe Judge said there that I think is important regarding not just this topic, but a lot of things that go on in this world. Joe Judge hit the nail on the head when he said, listen. And the reason, in my opinion, why this started in the first place 4 or 5 years ago when Colin Kaepernick did it, was he felt like people weren't listening. Not just white people, but people in general to the cause. And that is what I always ask from the start. Rather than asking, killing them for that, for disrespecting the flag, and I understand it. I completely understand it. Don't get me wrong, why people think that is not the appropriate time to do it. But what I always asked was, well, why is he doing it? Why does he feel he has to do something that extreme to be heard? And maybe people will finally start to listen. And if that's what it takes to get this thing going in the right direction, maybe it's for the good. And I think that's what Joe Judge is basically saying there. I don't think that anybody from the start ever meant any offense to the troops. That's my thoughts on the matter. And I think it's something that I needed to talk about because it's something that will be inevitable this season. But, like I said, I don't mean to offend anybody. I completely respect the troops, everything that they do for this country. But I also respect the right to free speech. And I understand that there's problems going on in this country. And it seems like Joe Judge and Daniel Jones do too. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.